JMU Falls to Duke. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. All right, thanks for the few of you that tuned in. I can't be too surprised. Something got in my eye that JMU fans didn't want to discuss the loss because it was bad. So we'll get to that here in a minute. Cajuns are on fire. They've won 7 in a row, and Coastal avoids a sweep in what may have been the game of the year. App State does take the weekend series, though, from the Chanticleers. But first, JMU falls to Duke, and very much like Wisconsin, they were not in it from the beginning. And the difference between this game and the Wisconsin game is that Duke actually made their shots, right? We talked about that JMU didn't play very well offensively. They did not make the shots that they had been making over the last few weeks. And because of that, it kept Wisconsin within striking distance and actually had it within 6 and missed a layup. And then Friedel hits a 3, and that was basically the end of the game. This was, all Duke. They couldn't cover McCain. Filipowski was 6 of 8 after only having 3 points against Vermont. JMU were not getting the bounces and, second chance points. I think they had 24 points and 10 second chance points. Come on, you get those rebounds and maybe it's a different ballgame, right? I know some calls, and I thought the second Edwards foul was kind of baloney because Edwards had Filipowski. Why Edwards is covering him, I don't know. What's going on here? All right. That's A. And because that's like 7 foot versus 6'5". And then, so he had his arms wrapped around his waist, but Filipowski had his arm on his neck. So I didn't like that. Thing is, though, Duke got called for more fouls in the first half than JMU did. And unlike Wisconsin, JMU just never made a run, right? Wisconsin, although they were, down from the beginning, did get back into it, and JMU just did not. It was not their night. Again, we'll read Shane Metlin in the morning how bad this performance was, because it'll be a long time since JMU has gotten blown out like that, right? I was watching the game. In fact, I went back and looked because the first Edwards foul happened so soon. I missed it. And so I went back and watched the beginning of the game. And Bill Raftery and Grant Hill were talking about what Duke has to do. Duke has to come out and play physical. Duke has to get on it on the defensive end. Duke has to, bring it to them. And that's what John Shire said at halftime. I'm really happy we kind of brought the game to them, which is kind of what we thought was going to happen, right? That was, pat myself on the back for that one. Like, JMU did that with Wisconsin. They made Wisconsin aware that they were there, and Wisconsin didn't have an answer. Well, JMU could not match Duke's physicality or athleticism. And that's one of the reasons we liked them against Wisconsin, that they wouldn't get out athleted by Wisconsin, that if they were playing a Kentucky, although they lost, or Kansas and they lost in the second round, or Duke, those teams just have more athletes than JMU does. And in this case, the athletes were hitting the shots. So regardless of turnovers or rebounding or second chance points, and some of this goes to that, Duke was 14 of 28 from 3. You're just not beating a team that's 14 of 28 from 3. That's very, very tough to do. They almost shot better from 3 than JMU shot from free throws. JMU got hot from the free throw line in the second half against Wisconsin, but they were bad again from the free throw line in the first half against Duke. And again, none of this would have made a difference, right? They lost almost by 40 points. So it doesn't take away from the great year that JMU had. I would presume it's a little bit embarrassing. That's the only thing, right? So I think I heard this conversation on national radio. Do you want to lose big or do you want to lose close? And I think, well, in this case, there's got to be a happy medium, almost like was what Wisconsin did, right? So Wisconsin's looked like they didn't play very well, but they didn't get embarrassed. JMU got a little bit embarrassed. Having said that, that doesn't take away from the season that they had, right? They lost, they hadn't lost in, the only month of the season they lost up until this last one was January, right? That was pointed out in the Sun Belt Championship and then first round game, right? Maybe even today, they November, December, February, and March, and their only 3 losses all came in January, 2 to App and 1 to Southern Miss. And that was it. It was a great season. So much so, and here may become the hashtag always the bright side, that Mark Byington was apparently up for the West Virginia job. And really, this is the world we live in, right? Some anonymous Twitter handle said that he had a handshake deal to get it. Well, turns out the Drake coach DeVries, I don't know how to say it. He's getting the job, according to Pete Thamel from ESPN. So he took the Drake coach took the West Virginia job. So with Dustin May taking the Michigan job, that leaves Louisville. And I'm not sure that Louisville is going to be looking too quickly to Mark Byington. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a really good coach. But they were looking at Dustin May, who went to the Final Four, and they were looking at Scott Drew, who's won a national championship. That's who they were looking at. So we'll see. I mean, is Byington just as good a coach as Will Wade? I mean, Will Wade did a great job this year, and I don't want to get off topic. But that is that is where we are. So despite a disappointing ending, it was a tremendous season for JMU. Sun Belt Championship, automatic berth in the NCAA, winning a game in the NCAA. It does come to a crashing halt, which it does for everybody except one. But there is a little bit of a bummer of an ending in terms of losing. Losing is one thing. This was again embarrassing. This was a bad game. Duke played about as well as Duke can play, and JMU. Again, Shane Mentlin's going to tell us. I can't imagine the last time that JMU played this poorly, right? I mean, I don't think they played this poorly against Southern Miss. They didn't play this poorly against App State. It has been more than a minute since JMU took it on the chin this way. So that's the only bitter pill to swallow, is that it was a blowout. It was a blowout from the get-go. They never were in the ball game, and that's the only disappointing part. Having said that, you get to spend the JMU fans got to spend 3 or 4 days in New York City, saw a bunch of pictures on social media. It's a lot of fun. That whole sense of anticipation on Saturday. You don't have to concern yourself with a game like in the conference tournament. Get to enjoy a game. I don't know if they went to a show. They certainly probably ate well. And then you're the second game there. And so there's that sense of anticipation that unfortunately went away very quickly. But, great season for JMU. And as it turns out, Mark Byington may be coming back. So there's although you may have one more job opening. We'll see. Kentucky may come open. And so then, you have 2 of the top 10, and Kentucky's got to be, I don't know if Kentucky's the best job out there. It's a really good job. I wonder what the best job out there is. I think Scott Drew's got really a good job. What's the best job, you think? Used to be Alabama, and it used to be like Billy Donovan in Florida. Those used to be the best jobs because you get to hide behind football, because it's not that no one cares, but they care when you win and not really all that much when you lose. Now Nate Oates can't hide behind that with Nick Saban gone, and that's a whole thing in Kentucky and Louisville. So you may have another job opening. We'll see if that happens in the coming days, but we'll see if Mark Byington gets tied to Louisville at all. I have no idea, but it was a great season. It did end up in a little bit of a thud, unfortunately, but congrats to JMU, Mark Byington and his guys for a tremendous season and a and getting that Sun Belt victory in the NCAA tournament. It's been a minute. All right, let's take a timeout. We will switch to baseball. The Ragin' Cajuns are on fire. We'll talk about that and the rest of the baseball action right after this. Let me tell you about Nissan. This week's March Madness bracket highlights is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. The Arizona Wildcats can only be described as an Armada. This two-seed is as hardcore as it gets out there, so no wonder they took it to Long Beach State in the first round of the NCAA tournament and then beat Dayton to advance to the Sweet 16. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. And FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We'll get to baseball here. Ragin' Cajuns have now won 7 straight. They won 2 last weekend against Arkansas State. They won their 2 midweek ball games and sweeping ODU over the weekend, including a run rule on Saturday. They are getting the hitting that everybody thought they were going to get. And all of a sudden now they're starting to get the pitching. They had relied on, I'm going to say inexperienced guys. Well, maybe inexperienced. Chase Morgan's coming out of high school. He's a freshman. Jack Martinez is coming from Division III. So, 2 big step ups for both guys. And actually, Chase Morgan, who pitched 4 shutout innings on Sunday, it was nerves. He said, I pitched in front of, I think my school had 100 people. We pitched in front of 100 people. Now I'm pitching in front of 4,000. And it took a little bit of getting used to, which he says he's now used to it. That's a good thing because these crowds are just going to get bigger and bigger. And the crowds on the road are going to be much more difficult. And so let's see what the Cajuns did. They were really in control the whole way. They won 3-0 on Friday. They won 13-1 in a run rule on Saturday, and they won 2-0 on Sunday. Although I think Kyle DeBarge's hitting streak was snapped, but I think John Taylor's got a getting on base streak. Josh Alexander had a hitting streak. The bats are just Jose Torres gets the insurance run. They're getting some good clutch base hits, and the pitching was phenomenal. I think they gave up, what did I say? 1 run, right? They beat them 3-0, 13-1, and 2-0. That's not earned runs we're talking about. That's just runs. They gave up 1 run. The starters, although they didn't go very long, like 10 in the third over 3 games, gave up no runs. So that's getting you off to some good starts. Like Herman went 4 2/3. Flune only went 2, and Morgan did go 4. So the pitching's been very good, and they are getting some, Pastore's starting to hit. Taylor's hitting. Mandino's now back in center field. They do need Trey LaFleur back, and we'll see what that happens. That's a back. That's not good, and that's not good at all. So we'll see when Trey LaFleur comes back. Connor Higgs is starting to hit. If they just get almost the whole team is starting to hit, they need Caleb Stellies to start hitting. And then Clay Wergo and, Jose Torres are doing a great job platooning a catcher there. Let me see. They were 69 Saturday afternoon. I probably tweeted that out intentionally. I think they got up to 62 on Sunday evening. Let's see where they are late on Sunday. They are 62. And they have a huge, in the Warren Nolan RPI, I should say. So they are moving on up, and they get Texas State, a huge series early on in Sun Belt play. Let's see where Texas State is. They had a good weekend. We can go over that here in a minute. Texas State is 76, as it turns out. So we'll see. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. Texas State is 76. Okay. All right. Elsewhere in the Sun Belt, Georgia Southern takes a series from Southern Miss. Their game was postponed on Friday. They split a doubleheader on Saturday, 13-1 Georgia Southern and 9-4 Southern Miss. And then on Sunday, Georgia Southern wins the series 3-1. So Southern Miss loses a series for the first time this season. Should also mention the Cajuns sweeping for the first time this season. Let's see what else. Georgia State, they stayed hot. What'd they do here against ULM? They took they took 2 out of 3. So Georgia State swept South Alabama, and now they take 2 out of 3. Their only loss was a 13-10 ball game 1 on Saturday, 13-10. So they played well this weekend. And Texas State ends up taking 2 out of 3 from JMU. They won 11-5. They won 8-1 and lost 7-5. But their RPI went way up. You mentioned the 76. It probably went down with the loss. But what were they beforehand? It went up 26 spots. So they were, 102 when the week started? So Texas State, because they played JMU, and they were like 17 at the time. Now they've lost to Texas State a couple of times, though they beat them. This time they're 27, and that dropped 18 spots. So, and that's like 9. Not like 9. That's how high they were. Wow. All right. Coastal, we'll get to them here in a minute because that was crazy. All right. So let's take another timeout. We'll come back and do the rest of the baseball. Coastal and App State may have played in the game of the day of the year yesterday. We'll do that when we come back. Let me tell you about LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all of that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And Lafayette Travel. Escape to Lafayette, Louisiana, the happiest city in America, where every visit is uniquely seasoned with unforgettable experiences. Savor world-class cuisine, including mouth-watering boudin, savory gumbo, and piping hot crawfish, seasoned to perfection. Experience lively festivals that celebrate Lafayette's one-of-a-kind heritage. Explore magnificent trails that lead you through our rich cultural history and breathtaking natural beauty. Discover the untouched purity of our cypress and tubular swamps, where you can pedal past nesting birds and sunbathing alligators. Immerse yourself in the vibrant rhythms of Cajun and Zydeco music that can be heard any night of the week. Whether your passion is for our rich cultural history, the bustling culinary scene, or the distinctive blend of Cajun and Zydeco music, the happiest city in America has something for everyone. Start planning your adventure at LafayetteTravel.com/seasoned. Should be mentioned. Festival International coming up at the end of April. It is worth doing. It is a free all weekend music festival here in Lafayette. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. So, a little bit surprising. Coastal Carolina heading into the weekend, coming off a loss, I think, to NC State, and still the best team in the Sunbelt. And then they went to App State, and they lost the first two games of the series. I believe that was, let's see here. They did not play on Friday, played on Saturday. And App beating Coastal Carolina 16-8. This was a crazy ball game. All right. Because Coastal Carolina led this game 6-0 into the fourth. They also led it 7-3. And somehow Coastal lost 16-8. Ouch. Okay. So App State comes back. 3 in the third, 3 in the fourth, 6 in the sixth, and 3 more in the seventh to double up Coastal Carolina 16-8. All right, well, it does get a little bit crazier. Let's see what happened in the first game of the doubleheader today. I think that went 9-8 App State. And that was at a noon game. They won 9-8 in that ball game. Let me see if we get the box score here. Let's see what we got here. Scorecard is not going to be able to tell me the difference. Oh, here you go. Okay. So 9-8. App State is leading 5-0. And Coastal Carolina then takes an 8-5 lead. 6 runs in the seventh. App State scores 1 in the seventh and 3 in the eighth. They win 9-8. And App State has now won the series. They take down the vaunted Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Okay. Then we get to the last game of the night, and they're playing a doubleheader. First game started at noon. Next game is shortly thereafter. Started at 4 o'clock. It was a 4-hour and 17-minute game. I'm talking to my buddy Kevin Foote with the Acadiana Advocate because the Cajuns again played. They played yesterday in 2 hours and 20 minutes, although only 7 innings. Sunday was only 2 hours and 20 minutes. You got to love those fast ball games. Nothing was fast about this. We'll jump to the ending. Coastal Carolina wins this ball game with 6 in the 12th. 6 runs in the 12th inning. And they beat App State 17-11. 17 runs on 20 hits and 1 error for Coastal Carolina. They leave 10 men on base. App State, 11 runs on 19 hits, 1 error, 21 men left on base. I don't think I've ever heard of such a thing. I know it went 12 innings. They left 19 men on base in 9 innings. 19 men left on base. That's got to be the game of the year. Again, App State leading it 5-1. Coastal scores 6 in the 5th. That makes it 7-5. App State ties it up 7-7. App takes a 8-7 lead. Coastal scores 3 to make it a 10-8 lead. App ties it up with 2 in the 7th. Coastal 1 in the 8th, and App 1 in the 9th. We're all knotted up 11-11. And Coastal Carolina scores the 6th and the 12th to win 17-11. That is a long day. Apparently no drop-dead time. Taking a bus. Like the Cajuns and ODU played at 11 a.m. Central Time because of a drop-dead time for ODU. There's no way that game would have been finished if that kind of result at App was taking place with the Cajuns and ODU. But I guess they're on a bus, so they don't have to do it. So Coastal avoids a sweep, but App State does win the series. Okay, so elsewhere, let's see what else we got here. South Alabama had lost 4 in a row, but they take the series from Troy. They do lose on Sunday 4-3, but South Alabama took the series 2 out of 3. Let me see what Marshall and Arkansas State did. Marshall actually takes the series from Arkansas State 2 out of 3. Arkansas State salvages the final game of the series 6-4 in 14 innings. All right. So checking out the standings, Cajuns are atop. And again, they're 5-1. Georgia State's 5-1. Southern Miss 4-2. Texas State 4-2. Texas State and the Cajuns going at it this weekend. Coastal Carolina 3-2. Troy, Georgia Southern 3-3. App State 2-3. JMU, South Alabama, Old Dominion, ULM, and Arkansas State and Marshall all 2-4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams on the bottom are all 2-4. Let's quickly look at what any other big time series going at it this weekend. We do have midweek games on Tuesday. And remember, because Easter is coming up on Sunday, they'll be playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I know that was when I first got here in Lafayette. That was a big deal. Tony Robichaux did not like playing on Easter. And now the whole conference has decided we're not playing on Easter. So good for them. Let's see here. Georgia State hosting JMU. South Alabama's going to Norfolk. You do get Southern Miss and Troy. That's a big series. That's pretty good. And the other big series is the Cajuns at Texas State. Big time series for the Cajuns. Will they be able to keep the winning streak going? Who do they got? They got Grambling coming in on Tuesday. So we'll see what happens with that. But a good shot that the Cajuns have an 8-game winning streak heading into San Marcos and Texas State. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will do more baseball, and we'll see what happens if Mark Byington decides to leave Georgia Southern. JMU, sorry. I don't think he will, but we shall see. All right. Also, we got more spring practice to go over, so we need to reach out to some coaches to do so. We also need to reach out to Mike Jones from ODU, new basketball coach, so we'll do that as well. You've been watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.